Hello and welcome to Kimboshi Radio, where we have a lot to talk about. There were a ton of storylines to look for, and then a million storylines almost happened that we did not expect at all, and then some storylines that we were supposed to expect, but it's insanity. Nick, how you doing?
This was by far one of my favorite tournaments I've ever seen. It was so wildly unpredictable, and it was intense.
Yeah, and I mean, just like starting from the beginning, so like, it is a little painful, but like, Terunofuji is back again. We just saw him come back from injury. We were all happy to have the Yokozuna back, 14-1. And then losses to Nishikigi and Tobizaru, and then pulling out of the Basho. I mean, mixed emotions there, because the exciting Basho that we got was because the Yokozuna was gone. But it also matters that in that Kirishima, the Shin ozeki, was also out for those first 3 days with bruised ribs. I don't know. How were your emotions flying for all that?
I was really disappointed to see it with, especially with Kirishima, to be out for your first few days, trying to then come back in and recover from that, which he almost did.
I know, he almost Kachi'd. Yeah.
But didn't quite make it. And then to see Terunofuji drop out so early, it was a bummer. But I mean, with his current, he got hit pretty hard. His knees look pretty rough after the fight with Tobizaru, and I think he had some back injury as well from prior that he was just going to try and fight through, which obviously probably didn't go super well for him.
Exactly. He always tries to do that, and we've talked about this it's a million times before, but it's that thing of that's what you want from a Yokozuna, that's admirable, but also it's stupid. Hakuho caught a ton of flack late in his career from the JSA for not fighting through things and not... and just sitting out so many Basho, him and Kakuryu both. So, Teru's trying not to do that, but I'm no, the JSA are idiots. Don't listen to them. This is not good. But, I don't know. I mean, do we think... Again, we just saw this amazing resurgence, but how close to the end are we with Teru now?
I was really confident going into it because he looked so good after the last one. I know he'll keep coming back for a while, but I would love to see him get his 10.
Yeah.
That would be so cool to see him. He can get that goal and then hopefully kind of out after that, or you have somebody close enough to Yokozuna where it's maybe you'll be without one for a little while, but you'll get somebody.
Yeah. I think I'm with you on all fronts. And maybe it is Takakeisho who makes another run. Maybe my previous feelings were based on just depression at it not happening last time. Because it is still madness how young that guy is, and he's going for it. And Kirishima, despite this sort of rocky beginning, we talked about when he was on his ozeki run, just how consistent that guy is. And I think both of us expect him to be here for a long time and hold down this rank. And the longer you're at ozeki, it means the more chances you have to make a Yokozuna run. So there's that. And speaking of which, I mean, there were a couple things I wanted to talk about before this, but I can't help myself. We're going to have another new ozeki, and it's another Mongolian, the nephew of maybe my favorite Yokozuna of all time. Asashoryu's nephew, Hoshoryu, has done it, Nick.
I'm super excited. I was really rooting for Daisho.
I know!
I'm really glad that Hoshoryu has locked it down so long and so consistently at Sekiwake. Yeah. It's nice to have another ozeki that is just not going to drop the ball.
I think so too. And that's something that I was definitely undercounting. So, okay, first thought is I'm a little worried. You and I have been a couple of pump the brake guys, as the Sumo Reddit of the world has really been pushing for Hoshoryu to be at ozeki for a while now. And we said we wanted to see it. So on the one hand... yeah, he did. He put up in order to shut me up. I was I don't know, can he actually get through and win a Basho? Well, here it is. He just did it. However, Takakeisho sat this out. He did beat Kirishima and near the end of the Basho when Kirishima was kind of, I guess maybe healed up, but I just don't know how healthy he was. And then when I look at it, his losses came to Nishikigi, who we have a lot to say about. Kotonowaka, who was a contender for this Basho, and Hokuto Fuji. So, all three of those dudes were in the running, essentially, by the end, to win this thing. So, those are acceptable losses, but they're not really the losses you would expect from an ozeki, which worries me a little bit. But, to go back to your point, I had no idea how consistent that guy had been. He has never had a losing record at Sekiwake, and he's been a Sekiwake since September of 2022. And before that, when he was at Komusubi, it only took him 3 times to get up to Sekiwake, but never a losing record at Komusubi. And before that, the guy has only had like half a dozen losing records in Makuuchi in his entire career. I believe that's great. It might be less than that. Let me see. 2, 3, 4. Only 4 times in his life has he ever had a losing record. So that's the same stuff you and I were saying about Kirishima, is this consistency at ozeki.
Yeah, and it'll be super nice. It's not, so this was Hoshoryo's first time getting 12 wins. So I don't think with him you're going to get, like, when Takakeisho is healthy, he doesn't get less than 11 or 12 wins. Like, that's kind of his minimum range. Hoshoryo might not be, I don't think he's going to be that where he's consistently getting 13, 14 wins. However, like you said, I would be shocked in the next 2 years if he goes Kadoban. More than maybe once off a fluke thing or an injury.
I'm right there with you. And people gave Takakeisho such a hard time the last year and a half, when he had all these injuries and kept like grinding out 8 and 7s, and they were just really on him. And we might see some of that from Hoshoryu. We might see some Basho where it's like, well, 8 and 7, like in January where he had that ankle injury, but he came back and got the Kachikoshi, like that kind of stuff, you know? But yeah, the way he fights, he has now gradually over the last year put on a little bit more weight every time, which I like to see that he did it gradually, like put on a little weight, test his ability with that. Okay, I can put on another 20 pounds. Okay, I can put on another 20 pounds. And I think he's at a good weight where he's big enough that he can clearly bang with these large-bodied guys. We saw him beat Tamawashi in this, who has a lot of weight to him and a lot of gravity when that guy comes in pushing and thrusting. Mitakeumi really struggled here. Shodai struggled, but those are 2 big dudes, and he beat both of them here. Hakuoho, who we need to talk about, that's a big dude, and he beat him. So, like, he's got the weight that he can do it, but he hasn't lost his style. Him and Kirishima both come from that school of Mongolian wrestling and have carried that into sumo, and both can still do that. I think that's what's going to help the longevity of their career, is the trips and the throws.
Yeah, and I'm really interested to see how this actually reflects on Takakeisho. Speaking of him, because he's had so many injuries, he's struggling so hard, and now you have 2 new ozeki who maybe over the next couple of tournaments, if they show that they're consistent and they're good, maybe he will potentially retire. I don't know that he will allow himself to, but it's like it starts to open that up as a possibility where, you know, him walking away isn't going to like, oh shit, like there's this is it. There's nobody at the top anymore, but he can safely hand that off if he needed to.
Yeah, and cuz we're just worried about his body. That's all. Like, the injuries continue to become more frequent. And I was reading a post on Sumo Reddit recently, and they made some good points, and we're talking about Takakeisho. They were talking about how long it's taken other Yokozuna to actually make it, and how he hasn't even gone as long as them yet. So he's still got time. And I'm like, yeah, but the injuries keep getting closer and closer together. I think it's going to be harder and harder to string a run together if he can't stay healthy. But if there is a resurgence, if something happens and he makes a change to his body or to his training or something that allows him to have that longevity, that's ultimately what we want. But like you said, him and Terunofuji, I still think those are the 2 best wrestlers in the division, and I don't even think Hoshoryu and Kirishima really challenge those 2 when they're healthy, but they're just not.
Yeah, when you get maybe 2 or 3 healthy Basho out of them a year, it kind of takes that out of the equation a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. It just hurts on lots of fronts. So that's the winner, though. This new ozeki picture is exciting, and we're gonna have Wakamoto Haru and Daieisho, who both had 9 wins and both fell short of the ozeki runs. At this point, this is probably more depression, but I feel the same way about Daieisho now as I felt about Takakeisho when he missed the Yokozuna run. After missing 2 in a row here, and now dropping so that he's only got 9 wins coming into the math for his next potential Yokozuna run when a 12-win runner-up tournament is dropping out, I don't see it. I think he's a Sekiwake. The same way we talked about, like, Takakeisho, like, yeah, he's an ozeki. He's probably better than an ozeki, but he's not quite a Yokozuna, I guess, by the numbers. Daieisho, I'm like, yeah, he's probably better than a Sekiwake, but he's not quite an ozeki. I don't know. So him and Wakamoto Haru hanging out there. And then just another one, Kotonowaka is surely jumping up to Sekiwake this time. So, like, we're talking about if Teru's healthy, that's awesome at Yokozuna. Takakeisho, Kirishima, Hoshoryu, that's a stacked ozeki tier. And then Sekiwake for the next Basho. I mean, I think we're in a good place again. Daisho, Wakamoto Haru, Kotonowaka, just beastly.
Yeah, so it is a bummer that Daisho, like, he kind of dropped it on this one. He lost a few that he really shouldn't have. He only needed 2 more wins, and there's definitely 2 people that he should have, at least 2 that he should have won. But, you know, like you said, maybe if he can't put it up, maybe by the end of the year he'll get it. But we'll just have to kind of see there. And I'm super excited for Kotonowaka because I know we've been hyping him up since end of last year. That he's been slowly just climbing consistently, and like this tournament was so good for him.
Yeah, it was great, man. He just was so solid throughout all of it, which he has been. We talk about the consistency in Sanyaku for Hoshoryu. 3 straight tournaments at Komusubi before this, and, you know, it was a grind a bit, 8-7, 9-6, 8-7, and now this breakout performance of 11-4. That's awesome. Great way to emphatically push into Sanyaku, and one of the reasons why we're both so impressed with him is he did beat Hoshoryu, the eventual tournament winner here. He was the one who ended this stellar run Ryuden was on, and so that's, you know, that's beating 2 different guys with 2 very different body types, having 2 very good tournaments. He beat Shonan Naomi, who was on a tear. He beat Endo, who for a big chunk of time was actually a contender in this Basho. He beat Daisho, extremely impressive performance.
He was the only Sanyaku to beat Nishikigi.
Yeah.
Nishikigi beat everybody else. Kotonowaka was the only one who stopped him from the sweep.
The last day, the last man. And let's talk about that, because this tournament was wild. So I'm going to try to give a brief overview, but then we'll go into it. So Nishikigi starts this Basho just on a tear. Like, he gets a Kyujo win over Kirishima, but then his first actual 5 matches, he beats Teruno Fuji, the Yokozuna. He beats Hoshoryu, the eventual tournament winner and a Sekiwake. He beats Daisho. He beats Wakamoto Haru, so he wraps up the Sekiwakes. He crushes Abi, and then it's Kotonowaka, who he's fighting on the very last day of that first week before he finally loses. But then he rips off another 4 wins. The man is 10-1. There's only 4 days left. It looks like this Maegashira 1 is going to come and crush this thing. There's some people chasing him. Hokuto Fuji clearly, like, is finally catching it. He's underranked, obviously, at Maegashira 9, but even underranked, he often struggles to put it together. And so he's chasing, but behind. Endo, way down, where we know he's, like, disastrously underranked at M16. He's sitting there, and he's got a couple losses, so he's chasing him, and we're like, wow, this is a Maegashira tournament, I guess, here we go. But then Endo really falls off the pace, and Hokuto Fuji eventually takes the lead because Hoshoryu slips up, and our Sekiwakes start slipping up. Then it reverses again and gets Hoshoryu there, but then out of nowhere, out of left field, Hakuoho, the golden boy, on the last day of the Basho, like, essentially there's a fight between him and Hoshoryu for the tournament. Like, they were going to have to fight in a playoff regardless. But it was an insane Titanic match. But the face Hoshoryu made after the win, it's so good. The mean mugging, and he did it again after getting the Yusho. Like, it was a roller coaster.
I love that it came down to those 2 again. Just like the predecessors, where it was the start of this, looks like a start of, like, a potential huge rivalry. And it kind of points out this was a weird tournament where, honestly, basically from, like, M2 to, like, M13, mostly didn't care. Nothing was really happening there, minus Hakuto Fuji, obviously. But the bottom half of this was by far the most competitive and most exciting I've seen them do in so long. Like, that bottom, like, quarter, I would even say.
And I love it. We talked about that before the Basho when we were breaking down the Bansuke too, is we looked at the M14, M13 and down, and we were like, this is stacked. This is nuts. And it's because a lot of those guys who, like, went out injured, like Endo went out injured from the last tournament, so he was really unofficially low ranked. Ryuden had a really bad run for a couple tournaments and was artificially low ranked. Takada Fuji, like, we thought he was going to get cooked, but then he kind of had a resurgence down there too. But just like all these insane records, Hakuoho 11-4 at M17. Aoyama got 9-6, which we thought he would. We thought M17 was too low for him. Endo with the 10-5. Takara Fuji with a 9-6. Ryuden with a 10-5. Shona Naomi, this newcomer, with a 10-5, and Gonoyama with a 10-5. Like, that bottom was like stellar, and so was the top. And like you said, I mean, somebody's got to lose somewhere, so that meant our middle just kind of got chewed up.
It was, honestly, it's so wild to me, even just kind of pointing that back out. Hakuoho, Shona Naomi, and Gonoyama, first tournaments, all 3 double-digit wins.
Insane. Yeah, and
that's so amazing for them.
So many Kanto shows. So many Kanto shows.
That I've never seen. I know I haven't been watching wildly long, but the list of prizes. I'm like I sent that gift to you of Oprah where it's like, you get a prize and you get a prize.
It's so true. And like, because when I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is madness. But then you think about it and you're like, oh yeah, no, technically anyone debuting in their first tournament who gets 10 wins is supposed to get one. Okay, so there's that. And if you beat the Yokozuna, you're supposed to get one. Okay. And then if you beat the eventual tournament winner, you're supposed to get, and then you look at it and that picture is hilarious. I don't know. I saw it in the Japan Times, but I'm sure it's all over the place or whatever. But they always take a picture of the prize winners at the end of the Basho, and normally there's 2 or maybe 3 guys, and they were like, here's half the field just in this picture.
Well, yeah, I mean, since I've been watching, you'll never see more than one newcomer maybe get that 10-5 minimum.
Sure. Yeah.
So to hit 3 of them right there, that is wild.
Yeah, just bananas and like super, super exciting. This is what you and I wanted. Like, I think the COVID era has been really weird for a lot of ways with missed tournaments and guys getting their rankings frozen, like, not getting dropped down. And like, there's this weird thing where I feel like for a while we have not had a changing of the guard that would naturally have happened. And now it's kind of all happening at once. We are really washing out a lot of wrestlers, which is often sad. I don't really want to see these guys go, like Tochinoshi and stuff like that. But now we're really starting to change things up in the division. And I think for the better. This is where the light starts to come in, and we're getting these new ozekis, and we've got guys challenging, and we have a solid Sanyaku, and guys are coming up, and guys who we think are good. Like, I still don't know what's happening with Mitake Yumi, and then Shodai to some extent. Shodai's going to drop a little bit, and Mitake Yumi is going to fall like a rock after 3-12. But yeah, the guard is changing.
Yeah, and it's kind of a bummer, even for Aoyama. Like, I'm glad he got his 9-6, but like he was M17 and he got 9-6. Like, he's definitely, as much as I hate to say it, on his way out.
Exactly. He's a former Sekiwake. He's a lot closer to Juryo than he is a return to Sekiwake,
Yep, exactly, which is just honestly kind of a bummer. And then obviously I have to address my favorite boy, Nishiki Fuji. 5-10 at an M8 makes no sense for what he's shown in the past.
Yeah. Go on.
When he hits Megashira 4, that's where he starts to struggle a little bit. Again, weird, because I've seen him perform really well at 5, but at M8, I'm like, oh yeah, easy, he's going to get 10 again. And forget 5 wins? I was like, what happened? I know I think he had an ankle injury maybe, or like his ankle was taped up more, but
yeah,
still, like, I just don't know what happened with him.
Like, yeah, he had so much tape on that ankle that it actually kind of looked to me like, those like wrestling shoes, those like soft-soled shoes, or like he had so much tape on it that it looked like he was wearing one wrestling shoe on that foot. But I'm with you. Like, I don't know. It's funny because we pride ourselves in being sort of the voices of caution, right? Like, we were like, hold on the Hosho, or you think we're hold on, always the voice of caution. We did not at any point show any restraint or any caution with Nishiki Fuji, and I guess it's biting us in the butt, but why? I don't know, man. I guess it could be some of this changing of the guard, like, but it kind of isn't. Like, his losses were to, like, Tamawashi and Myogiru, like some of the KG old veterans. And Ryuden he lost, who was on a streak. He lost to Aoyama. He lost to Endo, who's down there. Yeah, I don't really know. I still think the guy's great. And maybe he has a later resurgence, but I still kind of am of the opinion that it's now. He should be in his physical prime now. He needs to be making a Sanyaku run now. But do you think Do we need to recalibrate expectations and now maybe his career trajectory looks more like an Aoyama's, like a guy who will get to Sekiwake and be great, like a Daisho, maybe like a Wakamoto Haru, but that he just hit his peak too late in his life to really make the Ozeki Yokozuna runs?
I am kind of leaning that way, where it's like maybe at this point Sekiwake might be the highest he gets if he gets there, which I think he can.
Yeah.
I mean, mostly done well, but I am dropping it for sure. Where I was like, oh yeah, a year and a half, this dude could easily be an Ozeki, and I'm like, let's dial that down a little bit.
Right, because now, like, at this point, it's crazy to say after how he came into the division in 2022, but for the 2023 Honbashu, he only has one winning record, and his 3 losing records were not close. They were 4-11, 3-12, 5-10.
It's so wild with him. He either does super well, gets like double-digit wins, or he just absolutely tanks it.
Yep. That's just what it is. We're both still really excited. I think he has a bright future. I just think that now we will just exercise some more caution, which we probably do to the annoyance of many others with the likes of Hoshoryu and stuff. He's still good. There just needs to be something. I don't know what it is. And if it was just an ankle injury, then awesome. Maybe he's going to come out and blast guys next time.
Yeah.
What do you think? I want to do just a brief little roundup, but about Nishikigi, Hokuto Fuji, and Endo. These are 3 guys who very much were the last generation, although it's interesting because Nishikigi has only recently gotten back up to being impressive in Makuuchi. He spent a lot of time in Juryo and things like that. But these 3 guys had good Bashos, but all 3 fell short. I don't know. Do you expect anything to come of this run? Do you expect any of those 3 to be able to build on this? Or is this a result of, like, Endo... you and I talk about just when we're watching matches, I firmly believe that Endo is like an M5. He should always be an M5. That's his level. But at M5, he kind of struggles and goes like 8-7, 7-8. So at M16, yeah, he went 10-5. Hokuto Fuji, I think, is probably like supposed to be an M5 as well, but never puts it together. So at M9, he had a good run. But Nishikigi, he was doing this at M1, but then absolutely collapsed at the end. Are any of those guys going to be able to make a run, or was this a result of circumstances, you think?
I do think that some of this was just circumstances and luck. I'm super impressed that Nishikigi beat everybody that he did. You know, he didn't have a lot of easy fights at the beginning. However, looking kind of back at his record and like how not so much him, but how everybody who did this last year did, I think he'll go up to Komusubi, and I think he will fall back down probably to like the M3-ish range. And maybe that's good for him, like 3 to 5.
I think so too. I think, and I don't know if this is something I should do or not, but like, I just see so much in common between him and Ryuden, especially at this point in their careers, where like they're not old. I mean, by sumo years, I guess they're old, but Nishikigi is like 6 months younger than me. You know, I'm an old man. But they got these big bodies. They have avoided injuries for a lot in their career. But they don't necessarily fight a dynamic style like Hoshoryu that can get them some wins in a really quick, unexpected way. They don't have the just like shock and awe obliterating force of a Takakeisho to push them through in a long stretch. They're just kind of solid. And so like when things start to unravel, they just kind of, it's with a whimper, not with a bang. Like, Nishikigi just kind of lost the last 4 matches he fought, and then it was done. Ryuden just kind of lost the first 4 matches of the tournament, but then turned it around. Like, I don't know, you know? They're just kind of grinders.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of like Midori Fuji's run, where he also went 10-5, but honestly flipped, where Nishiki Fuji beat out... Nishikigi beat out the entire Sanyaku versus Midori Fuji lost to the entire Sanyaku.
Yeah. It's so
but
true.
He lost then at the end to all the lower ranked fighters.
Yep. Right, which you're just like, what? How did that? But I think it's just that idea. He's got, again, if you're a sumo coach, I think you would always pick someone with a body like Nishikigi and staying as healthy as he has, like tall, long arm span. He can fight on the Mawashi. He's got a lot of weight that they need to push around. You know, just like he's always going to be solid and stable.
Yeah, I think he's not going to be one, I think, that tanks. Like, unfortunately, bringing up Midori Fuji, where he did not do well this time. 4-11, he's going down pretty hard. I don't see that happening with Nishikigi, but I also don't see him, like, now climbing up to, like, Sekewake and, like, really being able to consistently put that together.
Right, yeah. I think so too. And then, like you said, I do expect that Nishikigi will be Komusubi this next Basho here, but whether he stays there, we'll have to wait and find out. But another guy who you and I expected to be skyrocketing up to Komusubi, who now I don't think will get that high because of injuries, Asanoyama will just briefly... It was really impressive that he came back from injury and won his last 4 matches to get the Kachikoshi. And I do think the guy is good. I do not think he is... Either he has not yet worked his physical status back to what he was at his peak, or that peak is done and he's not going to be able to get back there, but he's still going to be very good. But I don't know with Asanoyama, any thoughts? Like, I'm not really tempered. I still think he's going to try to make an ozeki run. I do think he's going to definitely get back to Sekiwake. I just have no idea if he's going to get it done. I do think that the Yokozuna dreams are dead.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Like you said, I think he'll get to Sekewake for sure. We'll see if he can string together enough to do the ozeki. I think he can, but however, you don't know what happens. Like this, he partially tore his bicep and then had to take time off and then come back. But he did get extremely lucky. Like, I'm just looking at the scores of everybody around him. Almost everybody around him tanked.
Yeah.
He's still gonna get promotions out of this, even just going, getting his Kachikoshi.
Yes.
So I think that's gonna work towards his favor.
I think you're totally right. I think he's going to get over promoted because he has to. Because the JSA is going to find that they have too many guys who need to be ranked between like M10 and M17 and not enough guys who need to be ranked between M1 and M4.
Yeah, like I'm just looking at this, like obviously Abi's going to drop a bit, Nishikigi will go up, Tokizaru will go up, but then everybody else basically goes down, and then he and Meisei got their 8 wins. So he could easily end up being like an M2, M1 next tournament, just from the fact that he didn't go negative.
I think so too. Yeah. Like him and Meisei are going to get over promoted. Shodai and Abi are going to get under demoted in order to fill those top ranks.
Yep. Yeah, which luckily will work out in Asanoyama's favor, and hopefully he can come back and really string that together to go up to that next level or two.
I agree. And this is what we're really waiting for, is a tournament where he does have to fight what now is a very solid Sanyaku. That's how I think we'll truly know if he's back or what level of back he's at. Because he's not back to 100% of his former self, but is he 60% or is he 90%?
Yeah, I mean, even at 80%, he should be able to get up to Sekewake relatively easily. He just has the strength, experience, skill.
Yes.
But we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. And because he has, sort of smaller guy, but this strength, this quick Tachi-ai. In fact, he fights very similar to just the last guy I want to talk about, Hakuoho, the golden boy. I was so torn on the last day. Ultimately, I was rooting for Hoshoryu just because I feel like he's been trying to get it. Again, probably some of it is I have this fondness that's never going to go away for Asashoryu on the dohyo. But that story would have been insane. If Hakuoho beats Hoshoryu on the last day and then wins in the playoff in his first ever Makuuchi, if he was to win a Yusho, oh my god, the expectations of the Golden Child would have exploded.
So, yeah, because he would have gone off in a playoff against Hakuto Fuji, who he had already beaten. So there's a good chance he wins again.
Yep.
I think someone said it was like 107 or 108 years since somebody walked into their first Makuuchi and then won the tournament.
Wow.
So the story there just explodes. But then
just a hair's breadth.
I genuinely think that he could, if he's going to get promoted, I would guess to about 8 or 9, just because he was so close to winning. I think he can do it. Like, he steamrolled a lot of really tough people.
Again, he beat Endo, who's a guy who he was fighting at M16, but I think of that dude as an M5. He beat Gonoyama, his Juryo rival, who's been doing obviously stellar with him coming up here. So that's impressive. He beat Takayasu, who I don't know. We'll see what happens next tournament. But Takayasu's another veteran, solid guy. Beat Abi, like you said, beat Hokuto Fuji. This is great. He's gonna get like what Asanoyama just got, where like Yeah, I don't want to throw Hakuoho to the Sanyaku yet because we have a really good Sanyaku right now. But fighting in the middle there, somewhere between M6 and M9, because I'm with you. I think M8 is where he's supposed to be. I wonder if they're going to over-promote him or not. We'll find out. But yeah, I do worry though, like, are you... I'm terrified about that freaking shoulder and the absolute metric ton of sports athletic tape that goes on it.
Yeah, it's not the greatest thing to see like on your first tournament, to see like you've been wrapped up forever. And I think his quote was like he's just trying to keep it at least where it's at, which is wild. That at this injury where he has to be taped up all the time, he's still beating everybody.
I agree. It's insane that he did so well fighting with that shoulder. I'm just personally terrified. I'm like, can we please protect this guy? We're not wrong. He is the second coming. However, if we allow this shoulder to get worse, it'll be Tochinoshin's knee, you know?
100%. And right now, I think he's fighting so well because he's young and his body can recover relatively well, or at least kind of even keel. But in a couple of years, like, can he keep that up? If it just never heals, it'll just break.
Right. What kind of cartilage damage? What kind of bone spurs? What are we doing inside that shoulder? This isn't good.
Yeah, if you give him I don't know what time he needs to heal, or if he's really even had like doctors look at him much. He might be trying to avoid it, just like I know a lot of athletes do, or they try to like downplay it.
Yeah, they're like, if no one tells me it's bad, then it's not bad.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, if a doctor never looks at this, I'm not even that badly injured. But I'd like to see him probably at that 8 range, see how he does there, and then kind of almost once he gets up to maybe like 3-ish, kind of like a Kota Nawaka, like. Mm-hmm. How consistently can he beat it from there versus like crazy over promoting and then he just gets blasted away?
Yeah, yep. I'm excited. Yeah, we'll see if he goes to mid Maegashirez and then gets another double-digit tournament, and then see if he can do it just under those Sanyakus. But like, he's everything we want in this division. He should be the next Yokozuna. But again, learning our lessons from the Nishiki Fuji Hype Train Express, like. Here is the most obvious path for why it doesn't happen if it doesn't happen.
Yep. So is another one where it's kind of like Asuneyama, where it's like, oh, I've got high hopes, but we'll see.
Yeah. Besides that, though, so coming up, we talked about some internal promotions within Makuuchi. We are going to lose a few guys. Poor Busho's on. We're losing him again. It's tough. It's such as life, though. I don't know. What are you going to do about it? And Wakataka Kage will officially be gone. So there's going to be a couple Juryo slots that I think will be Kagayaki coming back up since he finished 9-6 at J1. Just that classic thing. Poor Kagayaki. Too good for Juryo. Not always quite good enough for Makuuchi. But I do think the return of Atami Fuji is coming. But that guy, we were just talking about injuries for Hakuoho. Before Hakuoho turned pro, like, again, only 19, I was sitting here waiting for Atami Fuji. I thought he was the next coming. He came up and we talked about how he got absolutely smacked down in his Makuuchi debut, and then even carried some injuries down into Juryo and had kind of a long run back up. But now has had a really good, impressive time here where he just won the Juryo title with 11 wins, and that was off of not winning the Juryo title the previous tournament with 13 wins, just because of how stacked it was. You saw that then it didn't take as much to win this one once Hakuoho, Gonoyama, and Shonan Naomi were gone. But this dude has tape everywhere. He's still only 20 years old, and he kind of looks like a mess, another one I'm cautiously optimistic about. I had a lot of faith for him before. I like that he got some more seasoning. He's put together a couple really good tournaments in a row after taking a while to recover from how bad that beatdown in Makuuchi was. But I'm worried that the way sumo works and not giving athletes any time to recover, we might have screwed up another one, basically, is what I'm saying.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you, where it's like it was concerning to see how long it took him to recover just from getting beaten so badly in Makuuchi. Mm-hmm. I'm excited for him to be back. It's very interesting, like, now how many people from his stable are in Makuuchi with Teruno Fuji, Midori Fuji, Nishiki Fuji, Takara Fuji. It's like now he's back up, and I'm really hoping for him that he does well. Maybe he's recovered a bit. Like you said, it's not great to start Makuuchi injured. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a bad start.
Yep. And it's one of those tough things. Like, I think in sumo, no one would call him injured because everybody's always injured all the time. You know what I mean? But like, I just look at his body and I'm like, No, he's injured. Like, no one's going to admit it, but, like, that guy's not healthy.
It's like, well, why is it Nishikigi wearing all that tape? It's like, because he's not injured.
Yeah, it's exactly. Oh, yeah, exactly. But I'm still excited for it. And then we've got some exciting things maybe coming up into Juryo on the horizon. Like, I don't think this pipeline is done yet. I think the muscle man Ishizaki. So keep an eye out for Ishizaki, everybody, if you haven't been already. I mean, maybe everyone who listens to this is a degenerate like us. But you and I were massive Ishiura fans. We love the little guy, just absolutely stacked muscle man. Well, Ishizaki is the next coming of that. And he's been grinding his way up, and he's now gonna, I think, do just enough to get to Juryo 14. And another guy, obviously Kiho, the former Kawazoe, is probably more so the next coming of Ishiura, but a little different because he's even a little bigger, a little bulkier. But these are two exciting muscle men coming up that I think are gonna be good. Kiho was doing great and then had to drop out with injury, but I kind of am okay with that because I think he's one of these guys who, in a Hakuho-esque way, will kind of politely thumb his nose at the JSA and protect his body when he needs to, because he knows as a smaller guy, he has to protect it because no one's going to do it for him.
Yeah, and especially for a smaller guy, you go into some of these fights, you could get messed up so badly, so quickly.
Ishiura, he partial paralysis in his arm.
Yeah, and that could have been prevented.
Yeah.
To a point.
He came back and fought again.
Yeah, that was a tough choice, but like you said, it'll be nice to kind of see like a couple guys like of that type really come back up, because otherwise it's just Koto Echo.
Yeah, I mean, Midori Fuji, although that was like good for a while and now it's not so good.
Yeah, I think Midori Fuji, I think he'll even out again, but yeah, that was a tough run.
Yeah, he needs a little time in the low Makuuchi to get it back. But yeah, so super exciting things coming back up. We'll come back next month with another show, actually, when we get the Bansuke and preview it. But from right now, like your way too early predictions, what do you kind of think are going to be maybe the 2 or 3 biggest storylines in the September Basho?
I do think, again, Hakuoho probably like M8-ish. Like, I think they're gonna give him a solid promotion. He deserves it. He fought at that level. Otherwise, which will be interesting to see. I think he's going to get ahead of Ganoyama personally. I have to look at the scores and see like how the math goes. But I would be interested to see if they put him ahead of Ganoyama. Yeah, Ganoyama has obviously had a full rank advantage, but I think there's so much hype around Hakuoho that they'll buy into that a little bit.
Yeah. I love it.
Other than that, I'm excited to see Kotonowaka at Sekewake. That's gonna be one I'm super excited for.
Yeah, let's see if Kotonowaka, now like all these other Sekewake, can start building his Ozeki campaign, because that's a guy who a couple years ago, he's the one with pedigree. I believe it was his grandfather was a Yokozuna. I don't think it was his dad. I think his dad was a Sekewake. His grandpa was a Yokozuna, I think. Yes,
his grandpa's the Yokozuna. His dad was either Sekewake or Ozeki. So he's got a lot of expectations internally.
Totally. He's got the pedigree. He's got the body. He's got the record on the dohyo, on the clay to back it up. Like, here's a guy who, until his bad knee injury, was the talk of the town for the next future Yokozuna. So let's see if he can do it. And let's see if Terunofuji comes back. I have no idea. Terunofuji, yeah.
He got to sit out enough at this time and then getting another month and a half. However, I don't know. Like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't, but it would be. I just want him to get his 10, and he's at 8 now.
Yeah, so close.
Just 2 more, and then just finish out the year and then call it good.
When he's 85%, I think that his 14-1, I think that's him at like 85%. That's what we need. We just need him at 85% for 2 Basho, and then he's gonna get to his 10.
Yeah, like he's so wildly talented over everybody else that's all you need is 80% of him.
Yep. And then he'll dominate it. Right. He can still win a Basho at 75%. We've seen him do it. He can win a Basho at 12-3. He needs a little luck at that point because of how banged up he is. But either way, huge storylines. A couple guys fighting to see if they can replace him in Kotonowaka and Hakuoho. Again, according to us, maybe not in reality, maybe, but and then seeing if he can come back and do it. Again, Takakeisho, easy to forget about him when he sits out a Basho, but let's see if he comes back on a tear. It's going to be exciting. Great tournament. Up-and-coming guys backing it up. Super exciting. Great time to be a sumo fan. But until the Bonds K, we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for listening.